There you are. Welcome to Zen Fits, broadcasting from Blackstone, Virginia, the center of the world. But then you too are at the center of the world, and there's only one center. The title of this talk is A Close Encounter. Remember that movie, Close Encounter of the Third Kind? Well, anyway, I was writing about this encounter with Ruth this morning, so I'm going to share it with you on Facebook. This happened in the mid-'70s. I left Cleveland and my yoga path, and just wasn't working, and came back to Virginia, and the only job I could get was driving a meat truck. I was probably the only vegetarian meat truck driver in the world. Anyway, I drove out of Victoria, which is a little town near here, near Blackstone, and one day a week, or several days a week, I had to drive to Norfolk and deliver meat. This was back in the days when you had butcher shops, and you had to deliver meat to all the butcher shops in the towns. There was no supermarkets. And you had a butcher in the old butcher shop, and you would bring the boxes of Hormel and meat, whatever they ordered, and once in a while, a quarter of a steer. So anyway, I was a meat truck driver, and I would go to Norfolk, and one delivery was in Virginia Beach. And at Virginia Beach, there was the Edgar Casey Institute. Now, this was an institute created, or a library, or a resource center for Edgar Casey, who was a mystical reader or a prophet who would go to sleep and then speak prophecies, and it was all recorded, and all his books were there. But it was a magnet for spiritualists and a magnet for spiritual wanderers. And so I wandered in there one day to get a book, and the receptionist was sitting there, an older woman, a little older than me, gray-haired. And when I looked into her eyes, my whole personality, my thinking I, myself, my ego, my sense of self, fell off, just like icicles from a roof in a spring thaw. Whoosh. And I was in this space of the eyes. And so immediately I began to say, who is this person? What is going on here? I had no idea what this space was. And so we immediately just struck up a friendship, and I began to visit her when I was able to get my milk route in that direction. And it was kind of like an oasis. And in our relationship, it was not sexual or romantic. It was just, I don't know what it was. It was like old souls having met in this place and time for a moment. And in this space, there was just this unconditional relationship, totally free, totally without impediments, totally without me and the other, totally without self even. It was like in this space, there was just this oneness that was two. And so it became like an oasis for me. I would stop by there on my meat truck, and the meat truck I call the karma truck. We're all meat truck drivers. We're all on a route. We're all on a meat route of the world, the flesh material. And we're just, it's like the myth of Sisyphus. We unload our meat all day. We go home light and empty, and we wake up in the morning, and the truck is filled again from floor to ceiling. And we have to deliver the meat all over again. This is Groundhog Day. Remember that movie? This is the feeling that you're just in a meat route, just on a route. And it was called the cycle of birth and death. This feeling of being in a cycle, just reincarnating the same day over and over and over. Groundhog Day captured that perfectly. The day is different, but it's the same. And it just wears me out. It's exhaustion to deliver this karma. I call it the karma truck every day. But when I met Ruth, there was an oasis. I would stop my truck and I would go to her apartment. She had a piano there. We would chat, have tea. I couldn't stay long. And I would go, and I would go refreshed. I would go awakened to something eternal. And I didn't know what this relationship was. It like reincarnated souls that I know were in a past life and all that metaphysical and spiritual stuff. I didn't really add on to it. I just didn't need all that. Just the oasis was enough. And oddly enough, maybe not oddly, when it was time, maybe this was part of my own awakening, but I knew that I had to return to Cleveland and continue my journey, continue my way, my yoga way, or Buddha way, or whatever, my spiritual way. So I was saying goodbye to Ruth, and she had become kind of like a recluse, and I was worried about her because she was becoming paranoid. She was afraid to go to the door, afraid to go to the store. She was contracting, pulling back into her, like a monk, pulling away from the world. So anyway, I just hugged her, a goodbye hug. And the strangest thing, mystical thing happened. I was filled with this bursting of rainbow-colored lights. The spiritualists would certainly, the auras and all of that, but it was just lights and energy. And I remember this tremendous energy flowing from me to her, so much so that when I stopped the embrace, I felt drained. I almost staggered out of the apartment, and I never saw Ruth again. So I wrote about that this morning, a close encounter of the third kind. I think we all have meetings with this, a meeting of the eyes. See, when I saw Ruth, she was just a clerk, just a receptionist at a desk of a library. And when our eyes met, we fell through the looking glass, so to speak. I don't know what she was experiencing, but I know what I was experiencing. We fell through the looking glass, through the reflection. It's kind of like, and we have these moments. Usually we fall in love when we have these moments. Begins a great romance, maybe that ends in marriage, ends in a soulmate, in your partner for life, and it begins with a look. It begins when two eyes meet and you fall through the looking glass. Alice in Wonderland. What is a looking glass? Well, it's a mirror, and you see yourself there as a thing. You look in the mirror, and there I am over there, and I look in the mirror, I got bumps, and I need to see a dermatologist, or I need plastic surgery, but it's a thing there. But there may be a moment when you look in the mirror, and you look in the eyes, and the mirror looks back at you. So we see people out there, things, have qualities, characteristics, a history. They're good, they're bad, they're neutral. But occasionally we see a thing, we meet a person, and there's a look, and we know that person, and that person knows us, and I know myself through the eyes of the other. So now in that look, there is not a subject and an object, but there's just one subjectivity looking at each other. So that was kind of like the look with Ruth. In other words, I looked in the eyes of Ruth, and I was looking back at me. There was no separation between the eye looking at this person and the eye of this person looking back at me. It was the same eye. So the separation between my eye and my eye looking back at me is the illusion. And when that drops off, that illusion drops off, You are totally in the world. There is no separate world. You are the world and the world is you. You are the other and the other is you. There is oneness. And it's a magical place. It's a Pandora. And Jake Sully discovered that in Avatar. The Pandora of being in the garden before it was all named and sewed up with definitions, you see. Before it became it. Who are you before you became it? What is your face before your parents were born? That's the Zen question. Who are you in this look, you see, where there is no other, but there is just two eyes looking back at each other as one eye, you know. And one moment of this is transformative. We never forget it. Might be people longing for a beloved, or some chance meeting they had, or some romance they had in their youth, or some beloved they met and then they left and we never know what happened to them, but we always remember and reflect and wonder, who was that Ruth? Who was Ruth? Thanks for dropping in.